Welcome to More Music Please, Quarantine Beat. We're exploring how the music industry is staying busy and keeping connected during lockdown, and also just talking about whatever. I'm your host, MK. Let's get started. On the line with me today from my favorite party band, Andy Frasco and the U.N. and the World Saving podcast and the World Saving Shitshow, it's Andy Frasco. Hi, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
A weird couple of days. This is a funny time to do an interview. I feel like, usually the focus of this podcast is talking about life during quarantine and the music industry during quarantine, but I feel like today it's life during riots and life during protest, and so that's how I've been. I've been, going to as many protests as I can and just refreshing social media obsessively. How about you?
Man, I've been trying to do my part. I'm a kind of a hypochondriac when it comes to germs, so I'm afraid to get the COVID, but I'm doing as much as I can to help protest socially, and just trying to do my part to get people aware.
Yeah, well, you got a great platform for it. Let's before we jump into all of that, I guess let's lay a little foundation here. So, where were you in the album recording and release and touring cycle when things got locked down?
Where was I? I was on my last show of the tour, so I got kind of lucky. I only had to cancel. Well, it got canceled. The summer got canceled, but our last show was with Twiddle in San Francisco when that shit really popped. We were touring with Umphreys, and from there we moved on and went to San Francisco, and literally the day after they quarantined everyone. So we drove straight to Denver, and I literally bought a house like in February, and I was like, oh, I'm so stoked. I'm gonna hang out in Denver. I got a couple months off, and then bam, got stuck in my house. Haven't really met anybody in Denver yet, but we'll get it.
I actually just talked to somebody else who was in the same boat, that she had bought a house, she had closed, and she was supposed to leave on tour the same day as the closing, and instead she and her husband, who were in a band together, have just been like chilling in their new house and like setting things up and renovating and decorating. So have you gotten to at least settle in a little bit and enjoy your new space?
Yeah, man, I've been loving it, man. I love Denver. It's just such a beautiful place to live, and the music community is one of the best in the country, and so I have a lot of musical support and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just super excited to be in Denver. It's I never lived anywhere before. I've been on the road for 15 or 13 years straight, doing 250 shows a year. So this is the first time I'm like forced to sit down.
Yeah, I think the first time I met you and interviewed you on the radio, I was like, so how long has this tour been? You're like, oh, a year, 2 years. Like, you didn't even know.
I know. I've been on the road. Yeah. When I saw you guys first time, we did 81 shows in 100 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
That's insane. And all around the world. Not just the U.S., but that's why it's the U.N., right? Because you've got an international group.
Yeah. We got people from the Netherlands, Germany, just everywhere trying to spread, trying to spread awareness of living in the moment and making people come together. It's like, I love traveling. I love people from all around the world, and I wanted to get all these different ideas and backgrounds together and see if we could make a collaborative of music. And so far it's been working out pretty good.
Yeah, you've been doing it for how many years now? Have you been doing
13 years, girl. I'm like, fuck.
Wow. That's amazing.
I'm loving it, and this is why I'm here to entertain people and try to get people to live in the moment. And if I could do that every day, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, so 13 years, and this is the first pandemic that you've lived through, right?
I feel like it's all of our first.
I think so. I know there was some smaller scares with swine flu, H1N1, whatever, however many years ago that was, but it wasn't like this. So, I mean, what was that like for you as things started to change and lock down and you kind of realized, just how different it was going to be for a while?
It was pretty intense at first because I got nervous, like I said, I thought, we all go into panic mode, and you think like it's like when you don't know anything, your brain goes into like, oh dude, this is the Black Plague, we're all gonna die and whatnot, and as I take a step back and not let in, I mean, this is the main things with mental health is we let our minds control sometimes how we live, and then the anxiety kicks in, the panic attacks. So we got just like learning how to breathe, learning how to stay present, because when you take away your presentness, like my presentness was being on stage, you got to find different avenues to find your breath. So it took a while, but now I'm finally getting the swing of it, and now I'm enjoying the quarantine.
Yeah, I think
it's a break.
That's
I've never
kind
had
of
a break
been
before.
that's kind of been where I've been at. Like I started out, I mean, obviously I lost my job pretty short into this whole thing because of budget cuts, and yeah, there was like a moment of panic and what is life gonna be like, and am I gonna get this disease? How bad's it gonna be? And now I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing some home projects, I'm starting a garden in my backyard for the first time. I finally got on unemployment, so like things are kind of groovy right now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what have you been doing around the house? Have you like started any projects or done any painting, any good stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I started a talk show, the World Saving Shitshow, and I've been, dabbling in movie editing and directing and making these videos to try to like, get people united. It's like our shows are the ways that we got people united, and because we can't play shows, I got to figure out different ways to get people together. As a front man, that's always been my goal, is to make people connected. So
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the World Saving Shitshow. What was the development of that idea like, and what's it been like doing that compared to your usual live shows?
it's a lot of fun. It's difficult because I'm not a fucking tech guy, so like I'm trying to figure out how to run these programs and stuff when I'm not even a guy who even likes to sound check. So it's really given me the patience to sit down, find a way to get everything going, and just trying to bring back that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was tough, but the hardest part is trying to get a conversation going for only 15 minutes, like with the podcast, and you're probably better at that than I am, because you worked radio, so like how to get to the fucking point. I like to slow hump, I like to make love with the interview in a sense where it's like I don't want to like go straight to the point. I want to ease our way into the conversation so my guest feels comfortable, and I don't. It's a very difficult thing. So I respect the shit out of radio interviewers like yourself, man. It's crazy to get to the point, but like you just want to be genuine about it.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I mean, likewise. And I actually am having the opposite experience because, yeah, as a radio interviewer, my whole thing was I had to get right to the point, and we had to basically talk about the record, the tour, stick to the promo stuff. Maybe there'd be a minute to talk about like influences and stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot of time to like get personal or get deep. So now I have this hour-long podcast format, and I set up the whole thing where we talk about something else too, because I was like, oh, I can't talk about promo for an hour. Like that's boring, and nobody wants to listen to that, and nobody wants to talk about that. So yeah, I'm having to. I'm doing the same thing as you in the opposite direction.
Yeah, like how are you? So how has the transition been?
Pretty good. Like you, I'm not really a tech person. I knew how to run the board at the radio station. I had a good handle on all of that, but, I'm using a new editing program. I'm using Reaper instead of Adobe. And I had to kind of go from scratch and like figure out, okay, what do you need to start a podcast? Like, how do you do it, and how do you upload it, and how do you make it sound okay? And I set up this little like recording space in my closet, and it's all pretty simple, but I had no idea about any of it, so that's been a learning curve. And then of course, reaching out and inviting guests to come on the show is very different from when you're on the radio and it's like, yo, yeah, you're coming through town, we'll talk about the show for 10 minutes, you play a song, it's easy. This is more it's more personal. It's a little scarier, I think, to do interviews this way, but I don't know, do you find it intimidating at all, or is it does it come pretty easy for you?
It's getting easier. The hard part is, everyone has an objective to get from the guests, whatever question you want to get to, if it's drug addiction or if it's, for me, I like talking about mental health and drug addiction and whatnot. And it's hard to just go straight up. So how's your withdrawals going?
Yeah.
So it's like, like you said, it's the transition, but it makes us better interviewers. If we could learn how to interview through a long format and a short format, then we could get the news out, because that's the most important thing. Is the hardest part for me was just shutting the fuck up, while someone was talking, and like because you have so many other questions and they're not done with their thought yet, so you interrupt them. So I'm like, learn how to just take a breath, listen to everything, write things down, and then go back to the question when it's done.
Write things down is a note that I should take. I have the same problem with, like, I'll think of something that I want to follow up on, and something, when my guest is talking, and then I interject too soon and I cut them off, and then I feel bad. But I don't write anything down, but I'm very, like, I think naturally I really don't want to pry, which is a funny trait to have as somebody who, interviews professionally. But it's funny that, like, you go right for, like, mental health and addiction, which are very personal topics and awesome stuff to talk about. Like, that's what is interesting to learn about a person, and interesting to hear and interesting to discuss. But I don't want to, like, ruffle any feathers ever, or, like, offend anybody. And again, like, I come from that radio background where it's very, like, we're going to talk about the music, we're going to talk about, the show, and that's it. I'm not going to ask any, like, tough questions. So yeah, I mean, have you ever had anybody like bristle a little bit or not want to talk about it, or do people pretty much know what they're getting into when they come on your show?
Yeah, I like keeping it guessing, because then it's not planned, then it's genuine, like I don't like briefing people. I have guys on my show like Joe Angelhow and Alex Greer, who kind of like, give me some ideas of questions if it's dull,
Mm-hmm.
if it's like not dull in a sense, but like if I can't really get what I want to get out of the interview. So it's just nice tricks to but it's like anything. It's like getting to know someone. You don't want to like, so tell me about your problems first.
Yeah,
I used
exactly.
to do that, and like I want to get to know it and make it feel comfortable.
Yeah, totally. And I think I'm getting a little better at that. You just gotta feel it out. But it's also tough to do it this way, remotely. Obviously I started this podcast when quarantine was in full swing, so there's no question of like inviting somebody to my house, even if they live nearby. Like, we have to do it over Skype. And it's a little harder to have a natural conversation this way, I think. Like, I always, in radio, I prefer doing in studios versus phoners any day of the week, because, you can kind of read the energy of the room a little better.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true, though. It's like, what kind of tricks do you do to get the best out of people?
I just try to listen really actively. I've seen some interviewers who will go in with like a list of questions, and they stick to those questions, and they don't have any wiggle room. And I just try to listen actively to what the guest is saying. And if something catches my attention, I glom onto that and ask for more details on that. And I think usually 9 times out of 10, just understanding that I'm interested is enough to kind of get people to want to talk a little bit more.
Yeah. Like, how hard is that to do? Like when you only have like 5 minutes with somebody or 10 minutes?
Yeah, like I said, when I only have 5 or 10 minutes, I would just stick to like talking about the promo, and that would get the job done. And that was, that was my job in radio, but it's not necessarily the most interesting thing to listen to. So, yeah, the hour-long podcast format is both harder but a lot more rewarding.
Yeah, yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, but you're doing a great job, and thanks for seeing, appreciating what I'm doing with interviewing, because, I'm just been a musician my whole life. So I'm like, I think people need other things to do without just being so focused on one thing. You need to have a couple things that when the creativity is rolling, so I just, it's hard to pivot right now because it's hard because my band doesn't live with me, so I can't, like, we're all in different places of the country. So
yeah, how are they doing? Are you staying in touch with those guys? Like, how are they all dealing with this?
I'm trying to, yeah. It's just hard because everyone is enjoying this time off, but the slowly realization that we're running out of money is hitting them, because we don't have shows until September.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're trying to figure out what ways to, bring that back, and what ways can we do to help these guys so they don't have to get real jobs.
Yeah, sell too many instruments.
Or sell too many instruments, exactly. I mean, I heard a study that, like, when this is all done, we're going to lose a lot of musicians who won't want to play music full time anymore because they have to. We're fortunate that we have a fan base that is supporting us, but like I think of the other bands who are just up and coming and stuff, and how we could get them to keep the dream alive, because people need music now more than ever.
Yeah, I had the same thought at the beginning of all of this, like, because I interviewed so many of those up and coming bands who were so excited to finally be in a position where, like, they were touring full time, and, maybe they got their first record contract, and, then immediately all of that is just gone. And it kills me because a lot of them are so talented. They're all so talented, and I don't want to see them have to pack it in. And there's going to be so many less venues too. I think that's going to be a problem. I did talk about house shows with another musician I was talking to on the show. What are your thoughts on, like, people who have the capacity, like, hosting small shows on their property?
I think it's fucking awesome. I think it's going to be the summer of the house party.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the summer of the house party, and we're starting to book house parties and stuff, and like they want me to throw like these dance parties and have my band, and it's great because that's how I started my career. Like I used to play house parties and tour and cold call venues, and then the venues will play. Then the venues will ask the frats if I could play, and like. That's basically how I started my career, so I love how it's going full circle for this summer, because it makes me go back to my roots of what's important, and that's just getting everyone going.
I didn't know you started out just doing, like, house parties and stuff. Did you, are any of the guys in the band now people that you played with in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, Sean has been with me for 8 years. Ernie's been with me for 10.
Wow.
And Andy, my drummer, has been with me for now 7, so... Yeah, we've been going at it. God damn, I feel old as shit.
But they're in it for the long haul, even if it takes a little while to get back to normal. So that's good to know you guys are available for house parties, because I know I have some friends with some property who are already talking about, like, building a stage, and, like, if you get everybody together to throw in and pay the bands, like, I think it's pretty doable.
I think so too. I mean, as the summer goes and realize none of the venues are going to risk the music. I mean, there's some in the South that are already booking, and frankly, my whole summer canceled besides this 1 week of shows in Idaho in June, and it'll probably get canceled, but they're holding on for dear life, and it's great optimism. Like, we just don't know what's going to happen with this virus. So
Yeah.
house parties, Denver just moved to 50 people. So, like 50 people house parties, let's rock. I'm fucking down. Let's do it.
That's not a bad crowd. Of course, it's going to be hard to crowd surf with social distancing.
I know. I'm going to wear a hazmat outfit.
You have like guys.
I was thinking about that
one
too.
really
We got
strong
offered
guy.
to do like drive-through movie theaters and stuff. I'm like, I don't want to devalue my show, because we're very energetic, and I also feel like I'm going to get in trouble because, I'm wild as fuck. And my first show back, and it's going to be a drive-through show. I'm just like, I don't want to devalue what I'm bringing to the table. So
Yeah,
I'm just going to wait it out.
You have your thing that you do. You don't want to
me to play your
compromise it.
house, fuck yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. That's good to know, because I kind of feel the same way about the drive-through shows. Like, I think it's great to have an option, some way to do something, but especially a show like yours, like I want to party and drink at your show. I don't want to have to drive home and come in my car and sit in my car the whole time. Like, that's a drag.
I would love that too. I think it's like I go to shows to get away, and like, I love music, but I love people. That's why I'm doing this. So it just makes me it hurts that I can't see people, but I know that this is for the better good,
Yeah, let's talk about during normal times when you're on your regular tour cycle and everything is as it should be. Do you ever get socially exhausted? I mean, is there ever a point where like you get off stage and there's people like at the merch table and you're just like, I cannot?
It's sometimes. No, that's actually a lie. No, I love that shit. I mean, I live for that shit. I mean, I'm here for the people. Like, I think before shows, sometimes it's where like I get exhausted, so I kind of hide out before the shows. But once I get, because, for the first 5 hours, I'm nursing a hangover of the from last night, because, we're going hard every single night. So, sound checks and stuff, I kind of like hide out and breathe it out. But once I get on stage, it's like there's a flip that switches in me, and I'm happy. Like I live for those 2 hours or 3 hours I get to be with people and play music for people. So like after the show, I love it. I think it's amazing. Sometimes I get a bunch of anxiety before shows when I'm just like stressing over the show. Like I still get anxiety over shows and stuff. So
Yeah. Is anxiety like a pretty major thing for you? Because it definitely is for me. I'm an anxious little burb, as my boyfriend likes to say.
Oh yeah, I'm Jewish, girl. I got anxiety running through my blood. Like that's my mom is anxious. My sisters are anxious. I mean, we all fight it in my gene my family genes. So yeah, I have it, and like the only way I really feel at peace with it is after I perform or after I make something that makes people happy, so
Yeah.
it's just like I live with it every day. I live when I wake up. It's just I think the anxiety drives me to work as hard as I do. The anxiety drives me. So there's good things about the anxiety where I have work ethic because of the anxiety, but the bad things is like when I overthink the anxiety and why it's with me, I start building these false imaginations in my head that I'm going crazy, but it's really just a chemical imbalance. And sometimes, it hits and sometimes it doesn't. And when I've been working on breathing and staying focused in the now, and that's really been, lowering my anxiety, because it's a hard thing to think of, or it's a hard thing to solve, anxiety. Like, have you figured out how to cure your anxiety?
Oh God,
Can
no.
you cure your anxiety?
I mean, I've tried drugs. I was prescribed Xanax for a little bit. I didn't really like it. Like, I felt like it didn't. maybe I was a little less anxious, but it also made me just like care less about stuff, and I didn't really like that feeling.
Yeah.
I try to do the mindfulness thing for sure. I'm not a great meditator, but I do try to do some like, just being present in the moment type exercises that I've picked up along the way, and that definitely helps. But yeah, I'm very much like I go right to the worst case scenario, and and I stress about that in my head, and it's insidious because it's easy to say like, well, I need to be prepared for that scenario, that's a thing that could happen, so I need to think about what I'm gonna do if it does happen. But really, all it does is just drive you crazy and freak you out, and yeah, it's no way to live.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. And, like, what's your way to release it?
I actually am sort of similar. I mean, I obviously am not a professional touring musician, but I am in a couple bands, and
Fuck yeah.
yeah, I feel great when I do that. And I'm a front man, and like that's what I love. And like I've got one band where like I put on a wig and like have this whole like weird persona, and like I'm with you. Like I feel great during and after a show. And before, maybe I've got like, a little elevated heart rate for a while, but like yeah, that's so I'm in the same boat where like I can't do that right now, and that's tough. So I'm exercising a lot. I'm doing a lot of running. I'm doing a lot of hiking. I got a couple dogs, like, just trying to get outside and move my body.
Your boyfriend plays bass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys in a band together?
Actually, yeah, he actually just joined my funk band, my funky pop band, which he was not before. But yeah, we are now in a band together. But he's like a metal dude. He is professional. He does tour, so he knows all about it.
Yeah, because we almost hired him.
Oh, you should.
When we were going through transitions, I remember Sean was talking to him and stuff. I don't know what happened, but. Yeah, I remember he was in the talks of like learning the songs, and because I remember our bass player quit or something, and he's like, I'll do it, and I'm like, that's fucking legendary, because you guys are also, Woodstock. Do you live in Woodstock or Kingston? Where do you?
Kingston, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are so sweet. That fan base over there really is so supportive of what we do. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, well, we love to get wild over here, and
y'all are crazy as fuck. Like, I don't know how y'all are doing this quarantine thing, because you guys love to get wild. You guys like, what's the community vibe? New York's pretty fucked through this COVID thing, right?
Yeah, we're going stir crazy. We really are. Like me and my friends, I have a great group of friends here in Kingston, who are all late 20s, early to mid 30s, and we like to party. We like to go to shows and get super weird. And, obviously we don't know when the next time is that we're going to be able to do that. So we've been like eating mushrooms in the woods on camping trips.
Fuck yeah.
That's pretty much
I love
like
it. So that's the best thing about this quarantine. We're finding out what we like to do again,
Yeah.
So, you really can't complain on that one. So I just love how we're really shining a light on who we are as people again, because I didn't know I love cooking. I didn't know that. I never cooked in my life. I'm like, fuck, this is tight. Or like, I love doing laundry. I never really fucked around with laundry besides going to the laundromat and putting on my podcast and not being present. But now I'm like touching the warm clothes and shit.
There is nothing like having a washer dryer in your house. I was in an apartment for years before I moved into my house, and was going to the laundromat, and the luxury is not lost on me of just going into my basement and doing my laundry and just having it just there when it's done.
Yeah, no, it's totally right. I love it.
Yeah, so you're cooking for the first time. I imagine that's not really something you can do on a tour bus. So
no, I'm cooking. I'm throwing these dance parties on Saturdays. I always used to talk shit not talk shit. I guess kind of talk shit. Like I talked shit because I didn't understand it, or maybe I was just bitter about just DJs and stuff, and live DJs, and now I'm working with the DJ, and I understand the art of it, and it's fucking hard. So I'm throwing these dance parties with a DJ every week, and they've just been so fun, and I've learned so much about music. It kind of made me fall back in love with music, because this last 6 months was hard. After I put out this record, it took so much out of me. I was burnt out. I really felt like I couldn't write anymore. I didn't want to do this anymore, and because I felt so uninspired, and I felt like I was going through autopilot and stuff, and I was burnt out from touring and just giving everything of me to everyone else and not saving any for myself. And I forgot how much I loved music, and working with this DJ and showing me all these old 60s songs and 70s and doo-wop, and like, fuck, I really love music again. So now I'm getting back at it and, really falling in love with it.
Dude, a good DJ is no joke. And yeah, it's such a talent to be able to pull these old songs. I'm also a DJ. I do weddings and parties and stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the greatest. I'm pretty good, but I definitely have my comfort zone, and I'm so blown away when somebody can spin vinyls and pull these crazy deep cuts from these records I've never even heard of, and they sound so good and so fresh and so of the moment, and I'm like, fuck, I'm so basic compared to that. So I definitely understand, and I'm glad that's been something that's been helping you enjoy music again. Are there any artists that you're suddenly oh shit, I've never heard this guy before and I love him?
Oh, I've been diving into Wilson Pickett, but you know who I'm obsessed with? I can't stop listening to him. John Craigie. You know John Craigie?
Only by name.
Oh my God, he is the best. Him, California Honey Drops, and then a lot of the old, I'm listening to all these old soul singers, man, and all this old funk, Louis Johnson, and just the Righteous Brothers, and Aretha Franklin. I'm just damn, this is so strong, and it's still relative. They're timeless songs. That's the goal of every musician, I think, is to write timeless music that will last past your life. And to see a lot of these guys write these songs and 50 years ago, and it still resonates to now, it's just inspiring for me to keep going.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's much cooler than the music I've been getting into in quarantine.
What are you listening to?
A lot of Taylor Swift. So much Taylor Swift.
Really? Is it good?
Yeah.
Give it a try.
I've turned a real corner on her. Years ago, I really didn't like her, and it's been kind of gradual, but something about this latest album came out, and I was just both feet in the deep end. I am officially a fan of Taylor Swift, and I can't stop. I'll be out walking the dog, and I'm let me try to listen to something. No, I'm just gonna listen to Taylor Swift again.
Dude,
I think it's just comfort
so. What do you
food.
like about Taylor Swift? What makes you love her?
I think, on a less cool level, it's just good pop, it's well crafted, fun to listen to songs. There's nothing challenging in the music, there's nothing that's really, really thought provoking about the way she writes a song, but it's just so solid, and they're so relatable, especially as a woman, and she's the same age as me, and I feel like a lot of the time she's just saying stuff that I'd be too embarrassed to say, and it's super, super listenable for me, and sometimes the very cringiness of it is what I enjoy. I just want to lean into that and just embrace it, and there's even her older stuff, Speak Now is a perfect album in my opinion. It's long as hell, and it has some really weird, not weird, but weird by Taylor Swift standards songs on it. It was when she was kind of transitioning from country to pop, and there's a little bit of both, and a little bit of rock, and it's just she's just an interesting girl. She just kills me.
Yeah, she's badass as fuck. I feel like she's my dream girl. In a sense.
Me too.
She's my age. She doesn't give a fuck. She likes to do it, and she's just she's got swag to her.
Yeah. You know, and she's also kind of a goon, which I really like about her. Like, you know, I've watched some of her interviews and stuff and like the documentary, and like she's like kind of awkward. She's super tall. She's not very graceful. Like she's got, you know, kind of a dorky sense of humor, and I'm like, fuck, like, you know, and she's like, she's tall and blonde like me. I'm like, she's kind of me a little bit. Like, I don't know if I want to date her or be her best friend, but yeah, like I just kind of love her.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what I want. I want if I want to be her best friend or if I want to fall in love with her. I just want to like be around her because I feel like we could vibe, you know. But
yeah, she seems chill as hell.
Taylor Swift, dog.
Taylor, yeah, thank you for not judging me.
Frasco. Let's go.
Well,
find
that's
Taylor
also.
Swift.
You know, when I was younger, I thought I had to be so cool, and like I, you know, rejected anything that was too mainstream or too pop. And you know, that now that I'm 30, I'm about to be 31, I'm like, fuck it, like pop is popular for a reason.
You know, and you know, as we get older, we start not worrying about what other people think. You know, we just like what we like, and that's perfect. You know.
Absolutely. I was like into anime when I was a kid, and for years I pretended that was never a thing that happened, and now I'm like, fuck it, I'm back to watching anime again because it's something I enjoy, and who cares?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing as like musicians. Like they're afraid to write the music they want to write. Sometimes they feel like they have to chase the rabbit's tail to try to get on radio or try to get a record deal. You know, once we start understanding that individuality is fucking cool, then we start becoming more comfortable in our own skin, right?
Have you felt any of that pressure? Because I feel like the last 2 records were the first of your records that were really worked to radio, right?
Yeah.
Like, was there any pressure, like, hey, can you write a more radio friendly single?
You know, I just like you know, I take drugs on stage and drink and shit, so I'm never gonna be the pop guy. But it's going back to what you said was like, I stopped thinking about the live show for a second and just started writing. Just because that's what I listen to. Like I listen to folk music. I mean, I never really got into the jam scene. I never knew. Not like now I do because I'm surrounded by it and now I'm appreciated. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be Damien Rice. I wanted to be, you know, Newfound Glory and like something corporate. You know, I used to work for Drive Through Records and like I wanted to be in a ska band, which I'm kind of in a ska band now. But
there's elements of ska, yeah.
Yeah, in a sense, you know, it used to be way more ska and emotional, and I used to like straighten my hair and like have like long straightened hair. I gotta send you some photos of that.
I can't picture what that would look like.
Oh my god, I used to make my mom get me a Japanese straightener hair. Like, and I'd have like this like weird straight hair that flipped over my eyes, but right when the curls start growing back in, it was like it looked like Frankenstein, or like I got shocked by electric electric
I actually
circuit.
I totally relate because I'm also curly, and I used to try to straighten it, and then you go and you dance and you get sweaty and it looks like shit. you gotta let it just do its thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm into it. Like, what do you write music that you felt like you loved growing up now? Is that a thing?
You know, it's funny. I was also into like Newfound Glory, like pop punk shit when I was younger, and I guess what you listen to growing up, if you start to write music, the first stuff you start to write sounds like what you're listening to, just because, you know, that's how the human brain works. You know, I think I assume like you, I write the songs that I think would be fun to sing and fun to perform, and you know, that's really all there is to it at this point. I don't even think they're that cohesive. I think yours are a lot more cohesive. Like, you at least kind of have like, you know, if I listen to like one of your recordings, like I know who I'm listening to.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Yeah, definitely.
That's fucking awesome. I appreciate that because, you know, everyone has a feel, and I think that way too. Like, I feel like even when we have to reinvent ourselves, we're still gonna be us, you know. And doesn't we're so worried. Do you feel like musicians get worried about reinventing themselves?
I mean, as a very casual, low pressure musician, it's not something I have to worry about, but I imagine people do, especially like when you've been in it for a really long time, 20, 30 years. I mean, imagine being like 30 years into your career and, you know, feeling like you need to keep it fresh. I imagine it's easy to like make a misstep by like taking a wild swing and like really. I don't know. Yeah, like do you stay consistent with what people expect from you, or do you like try new things to try to keep it interesting?
You know, I look at two different careers. I look at Van Morrison's career, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and how he just wrote the same type of songs, and
Very
I
consistent.
love every song.
Yeah.
And then I look at a band like Pink Floyd, or I look at a band like My Morning Jacket,
Mm-hmm.
and they're always changing, they're always progressing, and I love that too. So it's kind of like a fine balance of meeting in the middle, but like you like what you like, and like I, I I'm at I don't think I'm at fault. Maybe I am that I love songs that sound like other songs. Like, you know, like you have a band, like you ever go when you were younger, like I loved every band that sounded like Newfound Glory.
Uh-huh.
And I loved every band that sounded like something corporate.
Totally.
And so, and I think it's like it's in a way, it's like you like what you like, and you take from, you know, the well, and you try to make it into your own, because, you know, inspiration comes from anything. And if you feel like you need to write a 2-to-1 chord progression for another couple years, and fucking write it, you know.
Yeah.
I was always like, oh, this song kind of sounds like my other song from 10 years ago. I'm like, well, you haven't written a song like that in 10 years, so let's you know, don't be so hard on yourself when you're trying to get creative.
And honestly, like, yeah, if you write a song that sounds like a song from 10 years ago, most of your fans are not going to notice, and the ones who are really hardcore fans and do notice are going to love it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's like you know, it's like sometimes like I cringe about some of the songs I wrote, like "Blame It on the Pussy," or like or like you know, smoking dope and rock and roll, but people enjoy it. And you know, it's like I didn't, you know, it's like I cringe about it because I'll have that 5% of people who don't understand the actual lyrics who are yelling at me about it, but the other
Mm.
95 of my fan base who understand the lyrics and are not, and you know, the other side of it, I'm not, you know, I'm playing with words, and it makes me, you know, I'm just insecure. I think everyone, like, when I'll think about the two people who talked shit on my album,
Hmm.
and not the 98% of my fans who dig it. You know, I think it's a tough for me. You know, I don't know why we're so worried about negative comments versus, you know, good comments. You know, like,
Yeah.
have you ever been scarred by negative comments when you were a kid and you just still think about it?
Oh, dude, all the time. I was massively bullied in like grade school through middle school, and it affects me to this day. But that's the human brain, you know, like they've done studies where it's like if you hear one negative thing versus a dozen positive things, like the negative thing is what's going to stick with you. Yeah, it sucks that our brains are wired that way. It would be really great if they were the opposite, but I mean, I think you can kind of train yourself to focus in on, you know, the good things and the positive feedback, but by default, yeah, we're all listening to, you know, the shitty things people say to us way more than the nice things.
I know, man, it sucks. Like, we're always looking at the bad things. Well, maybe this quarantine and these protests will help us be think of the optimism again, you know?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's what comes out. I mean, yeah, like obviously the protests are a crazy ass thing that's going on right now, and I've been to a couple, and it's been super positive, the ones that I've been to so far. There's been, you know, no violence of any kind. Everybody's just there to express themselves and to show support for the movement. And I think that's what most people are going in for. And then, of course, you know, you have instances where the cops decide to escalate things, and people take that whatever way they're going to take it. But yeah, I mean, hopefully at the end of the day, we, you know, get some legislation passed or something. But
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, what's one thing you learned about this quarantine about yourself?
the quarantine, one thing that I've learned about myself, I think I am finally understanding that I am kind of lazy by default, and I have to really, because, you know, I spent the last 5 years in kind of this state of inertia at my job, where it was like I wasn't necessarily making strides in a career, but like I was safe, you know, I was in a job that was okay, that I didn't hate, and you know, I was just kind of, I might have just been there forever because it was easier than, you know, making a big change. And you know, obviously I lost my job, I was out of my control, but it really shook me out of it, and, you know, made me realize that, like, if I want to be in a situation where I'm actually happy and not just okay, then it's going to take work. So I think that's what one thing I've realized, is that I'm kind of lazy and I have to fight that impulse. What about you?
Um, I learned that I never really loved myself until now. And in a sense where I give so much out that I forgot about myself. And this quarantine made me start thinking about myself again.
Yeah, that's good. Are you quarantined with anybody, or have you been all alone?
I've been all alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had my buddies Dolov and Danny came for a couple weeks, which was amazing. My friends since elementary, so
Nice. But yeah, lots of time for self-reflection.
yeah, I mean, I've been going to therapy now for about a year, and you know, maybe that's been helping me with my self-love, because, you know, I realized I was depressed for like 15 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know what a panic attack was until, like, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I had a real bad one, and I quit doing coke and quit having one night stands, and you know, it's just quit doing all the self-destruction stuff on myself, because, you know, when I wake up from it, you know,
Yeah.
I'm alone with my thoughts, and if I can't be there, you know, if I can't put myself in an optimistic place, I think that's detrimental to self-love.
Dude, yeah, and giving up stuff that feels good in the moment but makes you feel shitty later is so hard, but such a huge thing. I mean, I haven't smoked pot at all in quarantine because I finally...
Does it give you anxiety?
It does, and I finally realized that and was like, you know what? I'm happier when I don't do it. And even though I still kind of want to, because there's things about it that I like and I did it for so long, but I'm like, yeah, it makes me anxious. I don't need that.
Yeah, I don't need that shit either. I mean, like, I stopped smoking weed during the day. I only could really smoke if I can't really smoke weed when I'm by myself. You know, because I start thinking crazy shit on the yard. So I have to be, if I'm gonna smoke, I got to smoke with a group of people, or I have to fucking I have to be drinking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I counterbalance the
I used to feel that way,
brain,
but
you know.
I feel like I can't even do it in that situation anymore. Like, I'll be
Really?
like, yeah, like, it just makes me, maybe it's because my tolerance is low now, but like, I'll have a nice buzz, and then I'll take like 2 hits, and I feel way too drunk. Like, all of a sudden I'm like, ah, shit, like, I'm way more fucked up than I want to be. And like, then I feel like I have to like stop everything and just like drink water and fucking go chill somewhere. And it just sucks. I would rather just pace myself, and yeah, like, and pacing myself is another big thing. I don't like the feeling of like waking up the next day and realizing how drunk I was, and like, you know, hoping I didn't make an ass out of myself. Like, I'm trying not to do that. And yeah, so these are all things that, you know, one learns after 30.
Right? It's you know, it's like, yeah, when I turned 30, I feel like I woke up too. I like the 30s. I'm 32 now. I don't know if it's like I'm getting comfortable with myself, or my career is getting, I'm getting a little easier on my career, so I don't have to work so hard. And I'm finding myself in my 30s, which is amazing. Maybe we forget. Some people don't find themselves till they're like 50 or 60, or like when they retire. And then they're like my mom. My mom is just starting to find herself, and she's almost 70. She's on a 65, 66, and I feel sorry for her sometimes because growing up I didn't realize how sad she was.
Yeah, I mean, when you say she's starting to find herself, like, in what way? She's like finally like realizing the things she actually likes to do, independent of like her family.
Yeah, I mean, she was a mom. Like, she never really worked. She raised us, like me and my sisters. So I feel like and in a sense, this is, it's some Freudian shit here, but in a sense, I'm the same way, where I give everything to my bandmates and my fans before I think about myself. And I learned that from my mom. So she's so not selfless. Is that the word?
Yeah.
So like, she thinks about everyone else besides herself, and now that the kids are gone and she's back to finding herself, empty nest syndrome or whatnot. It's been I haven't been in the house for 10 years, but I mean, now she's really got to start focusing on herself. I feel for people who are afraid to get old, who are getting older, and they need to find out what they love again,
Yeah.
and I just don't want people to wait to find out what they love. I want them to dig deep now, so we could live with not so heavy, with heavy thoughts, when our knees start giving out, or our arms or arthritis kicks in and we can't do the things we love anymore.
Yeah, and I think, the quarantine has kind of given a lot of people space to do that, myself included, and it sounds like you too. I mean, and of course, I'm not speaking for everybody. I know I have friends who are healthcare workers who are busier in their work lives than they've ever been, and obviously this is not, woo-woo, find yourself time for them. But for those of us who kind of had our jobs put on pause, or, our regular lives put on pause from this, it's like, it's a good moment to kind of like take a look and be like, all right, what do I really want to be doing? Like, how do I really want to spend the next 30 years? And I agree, like, I like being in my 30s. I felt like, in my 20s there was a lot of pressure to like take advantage of my 20s, and like, you'll only be in your 20s once, and you'll never be this hot again, and you'll never be this energetic and healthy. And it's like, now I can kind of just say like, hey, I don't want to sleep on this floor tonight. I'm 30. Like, I'm gonna go home and be comfortable, or like, like.
I know. I totally feel the same way, dude. I totally feel the same way. It's like, we just understand what we like now.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna get my own hotel room because I'm 30. I don't want to share with 15 people.
Yeah, exactly. I had a example of that. My buddy got married, and like, let's all get a house. There's like 14 people in the house, and I just, I've been always the guy single, so I'm always stuck on the fucking couch. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna get my own hotel room.
Yeah.
And we just, but you want to be with your group. You think you like, and that's another point. Like, and it's okay not to like things you used to like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you're getting comfortable with yourself and knowing what you like now, and it's beautiful to not feel stuck. Because like, it's the same thing with friends. Like, I used to be worried to find new friends because I have friends since middle school or elementary school, but I realized that like, some of them I don't like anymore.
Yeah.
Or I never I think we were forced to.
Yeah, just hanging on to them because, just by default.
Because you're lonely, or you're afraid of what people are going to think about you if you leave,
Yeah.
And it's okay to find new friends, and it's okay to find new, new things you love. I mean, we should always never stop learning about ourselves and learning about life, you know. And once we start standing still, like that's my biggest fear, is standing still. I always want to keep walking closer and closer to the goal of happiness.
Yeah. So that's what you see as, you know, for lack of a better term, like the point of living is like just figure out what makes you happy and do that.
I think so. I think find out how to be comfortable in your own skin and not worry about so many outside opinions about what you love.
Yeah.
I think that's important to me. I don't know. Everyone's different. They're in their pursuit of finding out what life is. But for me, I think life is about finding what you love and what you love about life and the world, and just try to do that every day. Because there's going to be ups and downs and shitty things that are happening in our lifetime, you know, like this pandemic or, you know, or racism or whatever it is that we need to learn from so we could, you know, fight to be happy in the moment again.
Yeah. I couldn't say it better. And I mean, we're like an hour in, so I think that's an awesome place to leave it.
Fuck yeah. Wow. Man, I could talk to you. Man, that went by quick, girl.
Yeah. This was really fun. Let's plug some stuff real quick. So you got the World Saving podcast coming out every week?
Yeah, every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, and every Thursday you do the World Saving Shitshow, which is 8 p.m. Mountain Time and 10 p.m. Eastern. And where can we find that? Where can we watch that?
Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and we're working on figuring out a way to switch over to Twitch, but the time we switch over to Twitch, I'll probably be back on the road. So I'm trying to, like, you know, like I said before, I'm trying to figure out who, you know, what I want to do with this, if I want to keep going with this on the tour, while I'm touring, if people like it or not. So we're in test run, you know. I like doing it. It's a lot of work, but it gives me, I when I'm done, when I click the stop streaming, I feel complete. And that's kind of how the same way I feel about when I give a performance I really enjoy. So we'll see.
Well, it sounds like it's worth doing then, yeah.
Fuck yeah, like you, girl. Get this podcast rocking, girl. You got this shit.
Thanks for listening to More Music Please Quarantine Beat. Follow the show on Instagram at moremusic.podcast and check out the website moremusicpodcast.com for new episodes. Questions or comments, email moremusic.podcast@gmail.com. Thanks to DJ Scully, Michael Cadnar, and James Stewart for the catchy theme song you're hearing now. I'm MK Burnell. Talk to you next time.